Hi everyone, welcome to Manor Games. I'm Mike Ganade, and in this video I'm going to cover one of the questions that I get asked all the time in interviews and conventions, even in person at panels, and that question is, should I kickstart my own game and self-publish it, or should I be pitching it to publishers? Now, first of all, before we even get to that question, everyone should know that there is no right answer. It completely depends on the circumstance and the person and what path is right for you. So with that being said, I'm going to cover some of the questions I think you should ask yourself to internalize and maybe come to that answer yourself. Before I get to those questions, I just want to give a quick caveat and say, this video is sort of assuming that you have done all the due diligence of designing and developing a game. You've play tested it, done all the local play testing, blind play testing, and you have a solid game to pitch and or self-publish. I don't want anyone to think that you just need to ask yourself these questions and the game will come to you. This is assuming you have the game ready to go and you think it's ready for prime time, it's ready to be produced. So with that out of the way, let's get to the 5 questions that you should ask yourself to determine whether or not you should self-publish or pitch your game to publishers. So the first thing I think you should ask yourself when considering this is, how important is creative control to you? When you look at your game, do you have a very clear vision that you don't want to waver from? You have a theme in mind? Everything is sort of set in stone and you want to have the creative freedom to do exactly what you want to do? If the answer is yes, self-publishing, you're going to fall more on that self-publishing scale of things because when you are self-publishing, you're the boss and you get to have all the final decisions. Not only in the game, the mechanics and the theme, but also hiring the artists, how to market it. Every little detail of the game is going to be up to you. So if that creative control is very important to you, you're definitely going to fall more on that self-publishing side of things. Now, everyone who's made a game has obviously done so with their own creativity and had some control and freedom in creating the thing that they wanted to do. But one of the things you have to understand is that when you're pitching it to publishers, publishers are going to use their background and experience to mold your game into what they think is going to be the most successful. Now, in my opinion, most publishers are going to respect the game designer's creative vision, and that person's going to have a voice. But there are a lot of different publishers out there and everyone acts differently. I can only sort of speak to what we do here at Manor Games and what I know happens at other board game publishers that we're sort of closer with and have seen the process hands-on. I think in general, publishers don't want to erase the creative vision of the designers, but ultimately the designer isn't going to have the say. You're going to have a voice, but you're going to be in more of a collaborative, creative environment where you need to give and take potentially and make compromises in what that total creative vision is for you. So if that type of thing is immediately off-putting to you, again, you're more in the self-publishing route. But if you like collaborating with people, if you like sort of voicing your own thoughts and creative concerns and hearing the voices of others and then taking it all together and coming out with something, I think you can have a really positive, collaborative, creative experience with a publisher if you do pitch and ultimately sign with a publisher. So that's the first question. The next question I think you have to ask yourself to answer this sort of question about whether you should kickstart and self-publish or pitch it is, what do you want to focus your personal time on? What are you interested in? Are you interested in entrepreneurship and starting a business? Because ultimately, when you self-publish, that's a piece of it. Or are you only interested in focusing on the game, the design, the development of that game, the mechanisms of that game? If that's what you're really passionate about and what you want to spend all your time doing, you should absolutely pitch to publishers and let them use their resources to take all of that other work off of your shoulders so you can focus on what you're really passionate or good at. If you're someone like me, and why I started Rock Manor Games is because before I ever got into board games, I've been involved in entrepreneurship and running my own small businesses. So the business side of things wasn't particularly intimidating to me, and that's something that sort of interests me and keeps me active, and it's something I like to occupy my time with as well. So things like marketing, advertising, hiring contractors, doing spreadsheets and accounting, forming your business, building a community. If all of those things are interesting to you, and you're interested in the idea of running your business and doing your taxes and all those other elements, I think you're going to be more on that self-publishing spectrum. Whereas if any of that sounds intimidating to you, you're pitching to a publisher is going to be a much better route for you. And that question, the second question, sort of leads into my third question to ask yourself, which is, what are your strengths and skills? Where are your strengths and skills, and where do they really lie? If you have a vast array of skills, and you're sort of a jack of all trades, I think self-publishing is a better route for you, because you're going to have to do more than just game design and development. You're going to have to do PR and publicity and reach out to press outlets to get your game off the ground and get marketing for it. You're going to have to do customer service and answer support tickets and customer problems. You're going to have to work with an accountant and do your own books, or at least hire an accountant to go over your books and taxes and pay all those paperwork things. You're going to have to work on logistics and where your games are being shipped, how they're being shipped and stored, and all these other facets that are going to take up more and more of your time, and more of your time away from developing and building that game that you want to build. So you really need to know where your skills are, and that leads into the fourth question I think you need to ask yourself, which is, what is your relationship to the board game industry right now? Are you purely just a board game player and that's your hobby and something you love? Are you starting from scratch, building all these relationships? Or are you someone who's been really involved with other companies' games or at conventions or in other aspects of the industry where you may have contacts that can give you a jump start? Because one of the huge advantages of pitching to a publisher is they have those contacts and that infrastructure of their business to help you not only market your game, but also get your game into stores and get your game into customers' hands, get your game produced at a good cost with manufacturers. So where your relationships are and where you're starting in relation to this industry is an important question to ask yourself. And if you're starting from scratch, it's not that you can't do it. It's not that you can't self-publish or kickstart your game. It's just you have a much longer path ahead of you. And it sort of goes into this question of, where do you want to spend your time? Do you want to spend your time going to conventions for a year and building up relationships? Or do you want to just get your game in people's hands as fast as possible and piggyback off the relationships of a publisher and going through that process? Furthermore, I think the advantage of pitching to a publisher is that when it comes to relationships, it's only one relationship you really need to foster. When you're pitching to a publisher, you're fostering the relationship between you and the publisher and the team and the project team working on that game. And then once the game is finished and your job is done, your relationship with that is over, and you can get back to working on your next game, or pitching it to the next publisher, or pitching your next game to that same publisher. Whereas if you're going to self-publish, your relationship not only with everyone you're working on is ongoing, but you also have a relationship with the community that you need to build on Kickstarter, on Board Game Geek, supporting your games, talking about games, answering rules questions. There's so much more relationship building that goes into running your own business effectively than doing one particular job for another publisher or business. So with that, I'll go to the final question that I think you need to ask yourself to get to the answer to this question that I'm always asked, which is, how much risk are you really willing to take on your game? The advantage of self-publishing and kickstarting your game is that you get all the rewards. Every pledge that you get is $1 in your pocket. Now, of course, you need to spend those dollars to manufacture the game and fulfill it and deliver it to your customers in the end. But the risk is much greater and the reward is potentially much greater as well. Because again, you're more in the control of your own destiny. And as part of that, I would have you ask yourself, if you are considering the self-publishing Kickstart route, is to ask yourself, how much capital do you have? You know, Kickstarter is not the same as it used to be. And you need to ask yourself how much you believe in your game and how much risk you're willing to take and how much you're willing to invest in that game. Because you're going to need to pay for art, marketing, graphic design, and some of these costs are going to come well before you can ever effectively kickstart the game. So if you're willing to take that risk and you have the capital to lose $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, that's a much easier leap to take in the self-publishing route than if you're someone who's very risk averse. If you get a pit in your stomach, you know, potentially losing that kind of money out there, I think pitching to publishers is a much better route, because from an economic financial standpoint, you're reducing your risk greatly. Number one, a publisher is not going to sign your game unless they believe that they can manufacture it, market it, and successfully release it in the market. So finding the right fit for a publisher may take some time. Pitching back and forth to publishers and dealing with rejection is a part of this, no matter which side of the equation you fall on. You need to be okay with rejection and have a thick skin. But you're certainly going to reduce your risk by pitching to a publisher, because by the time you're getting your game signed, the only thing you've really expended and that you're at a loss for is the time and effort you put into designing and developing your game up until that point. You don't need to worry about losing money on marketing, advertising, conventions, logistics, shipping. All of those costs are immediately off your shoulders, and all of those liabilities are off your shoulders, and all those risks are off your shoulders. So how risk averse you are is a huge factor in whether or not you should self-publish or pitch the game to publishers. And with that, if you've enjoyed watching this video, please take a moment to like and subscribe to our channel. We're looking to put more of these videos out. So if you have any questions about the board gaming business or game design, please put them in the comments below. And otherwise, thank you for watching.